basically exploring the capabilities of using the space to interconnect objects on Earth in a secure manner using the latest technologies such as IoT, encryption, digital identity. So we have a very prestigious panel, which is already in the round table, which I'm just going to get my notes right with. So I also recommend the people on the back room, because it's a space here, to come into this room, and that will allow us to have less interaction in the background. So, sorry, it's moving too good. So the panel is constituted by experts from both industry, governance, and space technology. So we have, maybe the best thing and the fastest thing is I let the group to introduce themselves, and then we start the panel with the questions. So I give the floor to the panelists. By the way, thank you very much for joining us, and it's a pleasure to have you with us. Please, Ashok.
Pleasure to be here. Thank you, Carlos, for inviting me. I'm Ashok Ranadive. I'm CEO of CarbonMinus, a climate tech startup. Prior to that, I was with the Indian Navy for 20 years. I retired as a commander by education and nuclear engineer. Thereafter, I worked for Google for 12 years, and then for a blockchain startup for 4 years. For the past 1 year, I'm fully focusing on my own startup. Happy to be here.
Hi, my name is Andrew Forson. I'm the head of growth of the Hashgraph Association, which is the commercialization arm and private enterprise arm of the Hedera distributed ledger. By way of experience, I come from Deloitte & Touche, from a consulting background, and have been associated in the trust and estate practitioner field. I have also started and exited several financial risk management, financial engineering entities, and I look forward to hearing from my distinguished colleagues about this field, and look forward to fielding any questions people may have about distributed ledger technologies.
Thank you very much.
Excuse me. Eric Gu here. Summertiger Fund. For the past 10 years, being into crypto industry, as a researcher, entrepreneur, and investor. Currently running a hedge fund, crypto hedge fund, called Summertiger Fund. Yeah, that's me. Thank you for inviting me here.
Thank you, pleasure.
Thank you for having me. My name is Yann Donon. I'm Director of Telecommunication and Intelligence in RUAG. And we are the technology partner of the Swiss security network, so army, police, etc. And my background is more from academia, and that's it.
Thank you very much for having me. Good evening. I'm Grégoire Bourban. I'm heading the Space Exchange Switzerland. It's a national platform in Switzerland founded by the Swiss government to do promotion of space activities to our industrials, but also to do the link with the European Space Agency. My background is more in space technology, as I'm an engineer there, and I managed also a national program over the past 10 years in space technology development that we had in Switzerland.
Thank you very much.
Okay, first, thanks, Carlo, thanks, WISeKey, for the invitation for this panel. My name is Bernardino Copano from Spain. I'm a CEO of faithful water company called Bernardino Abad. And our company have more than 130 years. I don't look bad, but it's how it is.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Carlos. I am Ignacio Moldes, representing AVANT IoT. We are an European company specializing in the development of IoT solutions, hardware and software, around logistics. And in the last years, we're working hard to sensorize containers, terrestrial and satellite in both ways. Okay.
Thank you very much.
I'm Philippe Monnier. I have different activities in business, in organizing events, and in media. And I'm also serve WISeKey in the board.
Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you, Carlos, for organizing this exciting event. I'm Murat Seitnepesov. I'm the chairman of Integral Group and the Caspian WIG Forum and the president of the Greater Caspian Association. And my background, the previous life was the theoretical physics. Then I was a banker, and since the last 25 years, I am an entrepreneur. Commodity trading, logistics, digital projects. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So maybe for the audience, and again, I wish everybody, if they could, please be quiet, because it's very difficult to run the panel with a background noise. If you wish to talk, you are invited to talk outside, but not inside. I have been saying that many times this evening. I really request your cooperation. Don't close the door. Don't close the door, otherwise it's even worse. Carlos, leave the door open. The door open, but please invite the audience in the back to come in front. And if they wish to talk, they can go outside, okay? I think, sorry to be strong on that, because otherwise it's impossible to run the panel. So, but first of all, I would like to describe the problem we are trying to solve, because we have here a very large group of experts from different areas, such as space technology, blockchain, tokenization, containers, IoT. It sounds like a very distinct expertise, but they make sense when we put them together, including the carbon offsetting part. So the challenge is that we are connecting trillions of devices to the internet. So devices that they can compromise security. Imagine you connecting your thermostat at home or your cameras, and this camera being used for hackers to hack to your house, which is actually happening on a daily basis, or hacking an airport, or hacking a plane, or hacking an infrastructure, hospital, and so on, government offices. So the Internet of Things, which is the subject here, is a very, very big issue that requires very prompt attention. In the previous roundtable, we have talked about AI. AI can become a major partner for us, because AI will teach us how to defend that critical infrastructure, but we need to act fast. So I would like to just ask the panel from your different angles, how do you see your expertise and technology, for instance, like blockchain or space exploration, space picosatellite and others, to solve that specific infrastructural issue that we need to solve? So maybe I start with you, because you are an expert on blockchain and tokenization technology, and this is, I believe, is one of the part of the solution. Again, I recall the audience to stay quiet, if you don't mind. Thank you very much.
Yeah, maybe if we're lucky and the things we say are sufficiently interesting, silence will ensue. What I would say from the perspective of blockchain, it's unfortunate that crypto tokens almost came first, because people, especially governments and financial institutions, tend to always think of the speculative aspect of the technology. But the reality is, with distributed ledgers and blockchain, and in our case, the Hedera hash graph, we do two things. We decentralize data access points, which means the point of failure is effectively distributed. There's not a single ISP that can take down a distributed ledger network. The second thing we do is we actually validate the provenance of data, something that WISeKey does incredibly efficiently. They're very effective at commercializing this on a number of areas, ranging from art to logistics. But the fact that cryptocurrency and digital currency exists is actually proof positive of the importance and efficacy of distributed ledgers in protecting data. And that's going to feature more and more prominently, particularly whenever we have equipment, like what you're doing with SEALSQ, speaking between each other. So I'll leave it at that.
Perfect. Fully agree. Blockchain expert as well, although...
Just wanted, I can't stop adding, because we worked, if you remember in my previous job, when I worked for Casper Labs, we worked very closely with WISeSat to develop a prototype where the data security of the communications with satellite was ensured. That's something that we demoed in London during the Financial Times conference that we had. Just remember that. So yeah, blockchain does have a role to play here.
Thank you very much.
I think there's one particular technology has been represented here. It's called public key encryption. I think which you guys do very well, right? Including blockchain technology and IoT, maybe AI. This is a very important piece of technology, right? To me, crypto industry or say blockchain industry are running, it's like you're driving a car without a seatbelt or airbag, right? You need to have, like IoT technology also, you need to have public key encryption technology, or say you need to have, let's say, digital identity, and not enough. It needs to be self-solvent digital identity. So every individual, every piece of devices on IoT needs to have this identity, right? So I just leave it to that. I guess you guys are all the experts. I'm just thinking this is underrepresented.
No, I fully agree. I think so far we cover what I call the underground technology, blockchain, PKI, public infrastructure, cryptographic root keys, being able to distribute keys, being able to store the keys in ledgers. That's essential. It's totally disorganized for the time being, but it could be, IoT could be the driver, the business model that will organize this infrastructure. Go ahead, please.
So, talking really from the defense point of view, we are the end user, especially of IoT. Our focus there, it's resilience, and that's what we need from space technologies, as well than cost efficiency, but we can get back to that later. But resilience of the system, whether it's a constellation of low Earth orbit satellites, or whether we talk about blockchain, is key, and it's strategic, and it's really what I'm going to focus on and look at first.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, so I will take you to the space lab because it's my background. So thank you for the transition there. Well, I think IoT from space is a great example that we had over the past few years. Of new space, what new space brought to the domain, and coming from the technology push, so miniaturization, using of commercial off-the-shelf components, the low price in launchers, for example, made possible to think about this kind of businesses. Before it was not really possible to think about this. And so that brought us to this constellation of small satellites that you're also developing. And I think the topic of security there came maybe later, and it's a big topic now, because at the beginning we had the feeling, it's space, it's far away, and we have to secure already what is on Earth. And now more and more we see it's an important topic in every communications that we will have. So it's an infrastructure, it's a space infrastructure, but of course all what is about cybersecurity is of high importance, and we see that especially in Switzerland having companies dealing in this domain.
But how can we federate that ecosystem? Because we launched 17 satellites, Pico satellites. There are other companies in Switzerland doing the same, but we are not compatible yet. Don't you think it will make sense to create a mesh where all these satellites can be used for, because there's no point for everybody sending his own satellites. I mean, at a certain point, you have to create some kind of interoperability, right?
Yeah, I think so too, and not only in between the providers of Internet of Things technology, but we can also imagine also with the big providers of telecommunications that come. In general, I think in the future we'll speak more about multi-orbit, being in GEO, being in LEO for different purposes, and definitely it makes sense to aggregate that. And well, it was normal as a new business, especially for space application, that you have several companies developing or trying to develop their own asset, but we see that the need of consolidation of the market is important. Yeah.
Bernardino, you are the user of the technology because you move containers and you are putting technology that allows the satellite to talk to the container. What are the really benefits you see from that in your day-to-day operations?
Okay, I'm going to say in 3 ways. One is improving control of the merchandise. I think it's the most. Right now, all the control is in the truck, is in the lorry, is in the vessel, but it's not in the merchandise. Yeah. So it's it's the best way to have a real control of the merchandise. The other way could be the transit time. You know when the containers going to be empty or full, and you can reuse that container. So at the same time, this go with the sustainability also, because you just move the container one time. You don't have to move several times. About talking about the cybersecurity, for us is the most important. Right now we move like a custom agent and a freight forwarder, we move a lot of original documents in papers. And when we lose one of those papers, we lose the control of the cargo also. So if we can put both things together, control of the merchandise plus cybersecurity in the documents, could be the best way to move the cargo.
And it's very expensive to keep the container in the port, so if you can move that faster, you make economies, right? So
yeah,
it is an economic benefit.
But not only how much it costs, it's the carbon footprint. Yeah. Each time that you move one container is 1% plus for carbon. So for us, it will be better if we know that container is empty, can go to another place to load, and you don't have to make different movement inside the port. I'm not going to talk about money. I'm going to talk the best for the future.
For sure. Ignacio, maybe we can deep dive on the technology that allows those containers to talk to the satellite. What is it? And give a sense of how companies can use this technology for their own use.
Okay, we're giving information. These companies, the operators or shipping companies, about what is happening to the container itself as a box. So we can have information about impacts, inclinations, or even hazardous driving. You can have lots of information about the box. We can offer them and also these companies to the final customers information about what is happening with the goods, the merchandise inside that box that the container is. So we can manage temperature, humidity. We can know if the door has been open. We also have smart seals that are not very often used right now. So these seals also talk with our devices. We can have information about the air quality and also about gases individually or mixed. With that a range of things that you can sensorize inside, you can know many things that could happen about physical damages in the container or the goods inside, and also perhaps with vegetables or fruit, you can have information with some gases. You know what is happening with the goods. So we can give predictive information to the company that are using these containers, and also to the final customers that they have to offer valuable information for them to go in advance of the decisions that they have to take to avoid breaking the supply chain at the end. It's really interesting. We were always thinking at the beginning that the operators were many times very worried about the insurance. That is something that also improves with this information. But they weren't so worried about if they have to pay for things. The final customer is worried about having the good in the place that it has to be, in the date that they have to be, because the customer that is continue buying is the one. It's not us that are part of the supply chain. Finally, the supply chain happens because you want to put a good in a place. So you have information to be in advance to that bad moment for the customer.
Thank you very much. Philippe, what is this requires partnerships, right? I mean, you cannot drive that alone. How do you encourage partnership in this industry, and how you can relate also with governments? Because this like PPP model applies very well to this industry.
Because I think that in such a field, regulation and the law are very important. And then in most countries, the law and regulation do not happen very quickly. So I think it is important at every step to have a dialogue with the member of the government, the politicians. And if I take the example of Switzerland, there are at least 5 steps. The first one, the cabinet minister will take a fundamental draft decision, and they can be influenced. Second, they will ask the administration to write a paper which will have 100-200 pages. still possible to connect with the administration, to influence, to give the opinion of the private sector. Then they will send the paper to maybe 200-300 organizations. Again, a third possibility to influence. Then they will send a new paper to the parliament, called in German Botschaft. Normally it has 500 pages. Then the parliament, there are two chambers, they will decide, they will discuss, and it will take 2-3 years. Again, it's possible to express one's opinion directly to the press. And then the parliament decide, and administration implement, but by implementing, there are a lot of decisions to be taken when you implement. And again, the new opportunity to express one opinion. On a forum like this one, like the WEF, is a perfect forum to have discussion between the private sector, the public sector, at the international level, which is even better.
Thank you, Philippe. And Murat, you are the end user, as you have boats and you carry containers in the Caspian region and beyond. What is your experience with this technology, and how do you foresee in the future the expansion of this? I mean, are others, a transporter company, logistic, going to apply for it? Do you see that to be mainstream?
I will tell you a small story how this container exercise started. Several years ago, we started our container business, a company called Caspian Container Company. And the idea was to connect the greater Caspian region, and particularly the Central Asia, with a big world via container transportation. Then we tried to talk with the majors, starting from Maersk and through World Economic Forum network. And what they told me, listen, it's very good, but for us, your region, especially Central Asia, is a black hole. We are sending the containers, then they're just disappearing. Sometimes disappearing forever, sometimes coming back like in 6 months after, completely from the different location. And, and we feel it's not sustainable, we cannot really push this, we cannot really develop your region. Okay, and the region traditionally is working on bulk shipments in the Soviet Union time. And then the idea was, okay, how to connect live the containers with a database, with the server, and how we can get live information, what is happening with the containers. Then we tried with the GSM network, analog network, mobile network, but unfortunately, or fortunately in this case, in our region there is not enough coverage. And then, like 18 months ago, I was just for some other reasons in the Carlos' office in Geneva, and he showed me, we are now launching the satellites, 35 satellites, mini or micro satellites. And then I was saying, okay, I think there's a good application for this technology to connect the containers in the greater Caspian region, which is landlocked, 10 million square kilometers, deserts, rivers, roads, bridges, and so on. And through satellite, we have universal solution. And we started to develop this. In a very short time, I was really surprised. Carlos managed to create a consortium of companies, and many of them are present here. And now we are moving this project ahead. And in November, there was a Global Freight Summit of DP World and our Caspian Week jointly in Dubai. And then Carlos was there. And now DP World looks like ready to join the exercise. The memorandum was signed for strategic cooperation. And DP World, who doesn't know, is the biggest in the world port and terminal operator for containers.
They have a huge booth just next door.
Just next door, yes. So they build from scratch the whole building. Don't ask me the budget for this, but yeah. Very impressive. And I believe that now we can invite also governments, the countries of the region, because at the end it should be PPP, public-private partnership. What is bringing to the table? It's bringing full transparency and traceability of the containers. Now we can know, first of all, where is container, but what is more important, where is the cargo which is in the container. And that's easier to finance, easier to insure, easier to transport. Then we have a database, a data for optimization. We can do our optimization exercises. We are doing this historically for many years for the ships, for the vessels, which you can trace. But now we are trying to trace also to trace and optimize the container movements. And I am just saying this is a very successful example how from idea we can do and bring the really working solution, and we can connect this region with the world, and we are not only facilitating trade, we are enabling trade, because without this traceability, nobody trusting, and that's why no trade could happen. This great success, and thank you for this cooperation, Carlos, on this.
Thank you very much. And actually, I believe next year is going to be a huge opportunity year because Azerbaijan is hosting the COP 29 actually, 29. And this technology reduces carbon launched to the atmosphere, right? The containers and the maritime industry is one of the largest polluter in terms of pollution. It is an industry which is not sustainable whatsoever. And whatever we do in trying to reduce the footprint, the carbon footprint, is actually a great practical example to show in the Caspian region because this is going to be Azerbaijan, right? So we should be, we encourage the partnership to anybody that wants to aggregate to this and demonstrate in Baku in the next COP, COP 29.
I believe we need to highlight this initiative during COP29. We have several discussions now going on in Davos about the COP29 in Baku. Yeah. But also I would like to add, it's not only about optimizing the movement of containers. We are involving the containers which are abandoned, hundreds of thousands of container boxes now being abandoned in the region, countries like Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan. Turkmenistan, we always took everything already. There are no abandoned containers. Now we are moving to other countries. Afghanistan, now the US Army left the country, there are hundreds of thousands of boxes available there. And imagine how much energy and what is the carbon footprint to produce these containers. Instead of producing the new boxes, we can bring the old boxes into the circulation. But for that, we need, again, traceability, track and trace technology, and the solution is through satellites. Yeah. Thank you.
And maybe Ashok, because you are very focused on sustainability and carbon offsetting, how that will play in order to use your technology in order to assist a carbon offsetting process on this very polluted industry, which is the transportation.
Yeah, I think he gave a brilliant example of, so the 3 R's of sustainability, reduce, recycle, and reuse are very, very critical, right? And I think traceability is a key aspect of achieving the 3 R's. Unless we are tracking or tracing, unless we have data available and data that is authenticate, data that is that you can rely on, making these decisions are very, very difficult. So my company, CarbonMinus, is currently focused on industrial sector, right? We gather data from the manufacturing plants. We optimize, we use ISO standard algorithms to kind of find where the wastage is. And a lot of these initiatives around climate tech, one fundamental aspect people miss out on is the best and the most efficient way to reduce carbon emissions is actually to reduce wastage. And that's a very key factor a lot of people miss out on. You try to have new technologies, you do carbon sequestration. There's a lot happening and all that is good. But at the bottom line, and something that is particularly very, very useful for actual manufacturers, people who are in the business, is how do we improve their operational efficiencies so that the wastage goes down and every dollar wastage that is reduced has an equivalent kind of impact on the reduction of ill effects on the climate. And I think that's something that's kind of coming out here, that using technology to track is critical and technology that you can rely on. And IoT devices and satellite is a great combination in that.
Thank you very much. So just an organizational aspect. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to close this door in the back. So this door is going to be closed. So any one of you would like to come in here to listen, you're most welcome. But this room is going to be closed. It's a private room and it's going to be closed. So if you don't mind to move here, and if you are here, please keep silent, because this is the word I have been using tonight more recurrently. I'm gonna trademark the word. So if you don't mind to come into this room, we're gonna close that room. Sorry, apologies. Just let's go.
I think we did convey the point. Sorry. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe I wanted to react because sustainability is an important aspect of space, and also saying that that not only IoT, there is good example here, and thank you very much for the examples, because we know space also about monitoring our climate with Earth observation images, and we know it is, well, we are not doing, of course, space is fun, but we are not doing, or we are not putting satellites around the Earth just because it's fun. It's also because it's giving an added value, an economic value, but also a societal value. And more in general, I think it's pretty clear if we take the UN SDGs, for example, we will never reach them without space asset in general. And again, I think your example here is a great example there. So thank you very much for that. Yeah.
Well, we develop devices, technology, but believe me that for us is the less important thing is what we're going to do with it. You've talked about the wastage. It's supposed that vegetables and fruits could be around 20% failure operations. So you send them, but once you get them at the end of the shipment, they are died. That's something that you can go in advance with the data. I think it's the way we have to work in these areas.
Thank you. And well, my colleague also mentioned economic sustainability, and that's something I briefly evoked in the beginning. And I think this is key today, right? About 15 years ago, you correct me, but Swiss government produced a strategy about space, and the strategy was basically we don't want to put ourselves on the map because we would be one of the very few countries in the world able to send satellites. Therefore, it's painting a target on our back. And today, this vision is completely changing. And the future strategy and the future vision of the government is going to be diametrically opposite to that. And we realize that space is now economically profitable in comparison with old land-based technology that we have. And just as a metric, right, rough metric, setting up a telecommunication network in Switzerland would be estimated twice more expensive today if made with land-based technology than with satellite-based technology. And I think that's very important that we're able to get that in the collective mind, that this is economically and viable and sustainable.
But one question on the presence of Switzerland or Europe in Spain is that we don't have launchers. We actually, WISeKey is working with PLD Space, which is a Spanish startup, and they launch a Murat rocket. It's successful, it's a small rocket. The next one is going to be in 3 years' time. By the time they are, but there's absolutely no backing, fundamental financial backing for launchers. I mean, if you go to a SpaceX, the reason why they are where they are is because they have the U.S. government fully financing them. Do you have any views on is that going to change in Europe, or is going to be 100% risk for entrepreneurs to take the decision to go to the space like I did?
Well, I'd say we're certainly going to be late. We already are. Now I come from a company that some years ago had a whole space division that was building with ESA some launchers. I won't express myself. I'm very sad we don't have it anymore. And if I may just add something to what you said, there are specific orbits that would serve, for example, specifically Switzerland, right? And those orbits are not necessarily served by SpaceX or by a US agency for geographical reason. And that's one more reason why we need absolutely to develop in Europe launching capabilities and defend our interests. And now basically east and west we have launchers, but right in the middle ESA is...
We have ESA, we have Ariane 5, yes. But it's very expensive. I have been told that Ariane 5, the problem is that it's not sustainable in terms of economic investment. They just burn money in the last year. So how we can, I mean, Elon Musk is doing an IPO on a Starlink, and the business model actually is not a SpaceX, it's a Starlink, right? So do we, or can we build something like that here in Europe or in Switzerland?
On why is ESA so expensive? I mean, I understand also Switzerland is fully part of ESA, but why is it so expensive?
Well, difficult to explain all of that, but the first thing which is important to remind, indeed, Switzerland is a full member of ESA, was a founding member of ESA 50 years ago. Basically, almost all our money is going to ESA. coming back in Switzerland, roughly 80% for contract with the industry, with the science also to develop. So being part of ESA is also giving us the opportunity to be part of every missions that ESA is having. Speaking about launchers, we have a great contribution of Switzerland in the Ariane story. We know now that there are, of course, it's not so easy. Indeed, the competition is very hard. All broken also by what happened in the US. We are expensive in Europe, that's correct. I think we are reacting also. Looking at the companies, you mentioned PLD, there is also Rocket Factory Augsburg in Germany. I think ESA is also looking at what could be these opportunities of having new space companies. Of course, they are the main focus is now with Ariane 6, with Vega also, with the Italian. But yes, that's correct. We are a little bit behind now, and we expect also that the private companies are coming. But it's very difficult to compare with US because in US, basically SpaceX had big contracts from the government, which is less easy here.
Yeah, but here in Switzerland, and it's happening. We also have the Swiss Army. I mean, and they need satellite access because we have many mountains, and I've been told that just putting antennas in the top of the mountain to track and trace objects in the valleys is so expensive. So I think the important thing is to develop a business model that makes this investment profitable, which is that basically SpaceX is going to do an IPO at $36 billion valuation, something like that. So we learn how to do that. This is accessible to us. We have the same capabilities in terms to be able to create the next SpaceX in Europe. But we need to copy or inspire from an American model because this is the one that's working, right?
Well, I think inspiration is already around, and that's clear. Let's see what will happen. It's important that the private sector is growing there. As you said, there is new interest, of course, in the defense. Well, honestly, I don't think we will build a full rocket only for Swiss needs, sure. But I think it's important that, I think it was a few years ago when, in 2015, when they decided about the future of Ariane 5, they did an evaluation of the market demand. And at that time, it was before having Starlink, for example, in the US, and at that time it was said that, well, we wanted that many launches per year. The demand. So we were probably wrong at that time. We didn't see coming this wave of constellations. That's very clear. Now we are in the reaction and not in the action, but we expect that the private sector will take the lead there.
Sorry, Carlos, I would like to say that it's happening already. 5 years ago, for us, was impossible to pretend to make a huge development because the costs of connection and the quantity of energy that we had to use to get the satellite was a disaster for a real project with thousands of units working for us and for the customers. And now that's possible. The cost has gone down like 10 times, and the energy we use to connect with the satellite, it's 20 or 30 times smaller than 5 years ago. So it's great. It's allowing us making this kind of projects.
And actually also the cost of launching itself, because I tell you for myself, SpaceX is $250,000 to put one picosatellite in orbit end-to-end, whether Murat is going to be something like $30,000 because you can scale down the cost. So if you have a few industries that they need, you can launch a Murat every day, like it's happening now in SpaceX, right? So we need to aggregate and we need to cooperate on that. We have very short time. We only have 10 minutes, so I don't know if the audience has any questions related to IoT, space, satellite, blockchain, tokenization. So many subjects has been covered here. If you have any question, Anastasia is available to give you the microphone. While that is happening, another aspect is, and this has been announced yesterday by SEALSQ, which is the sister company of WISeKey, also in the NASDAQ, is that we are launching a token. We call that a SEAL coin. So it is a machine-to-machine payment token. So as we provide semiconductors, then we embed into objects like cameras, routers, medical devices. The vision of the future is that those objects are going to pay themselves without the need to go outside the ecosystem. That's going to reduce substantially the fees because that's going to be cryptocurrency payment back and forward, but can also be injected into that coin sustainability models like carbon offsetting. It will be like a tax that you can add in the coin. So we are launching that tomorrow in Hedera. Actually, we are with you tomorrow in the panel. I will invite you guys to join us there because it's a very exciting way of revolutionizing what I call TIoT, which is transactional IoT. And this is something that I think will also accelerate because you can basically use those tokens as a way to invest in the next generation launchers. Any question? And again, if you don't mind to keep silent, we have been doing very well in the last 10 minutes. So if we can keep, that will be great. Please go ahead.
Yes.
Yep.
Hi, Dr. Clotilde Monguia. I'm from the Democratic Republic of Congo. I had 2 questions.
Excuse
The
me,
first
gentlemen,
one
could you
will
please
be
be
about
quiet?
The first one will be, hi, Dr. Clotilde Monguia from New York. The first time will be about regulation. We talk a lot about regulation, and we really all regulated ourselves in silo. Here you come, very happy to see you aggregate. Talk to me what you intend to do about regulation. Talking aggregation. Second question, very quick. I come from the healthcare sectors, and the packaging, inventorying, what you just said, I'm looking at a model for vaccine. So I will be very pleased to be introduced to one of you guys and see how we can optimize the distribution of vaccine to the people who need it the most using this technology. Those are my questions. Thank you.
Okay, sorry. About the standards, we are very worried about that, and we have a help from this company. We integrate the chipsets in the motherboard, so from the origin the data is being protected. We encrypt it. We use PKI. We put a blockchain above it, and among that is the question that you're making. But you have to do that before. If you don't do that, what you are asking for is not so important. We are complying the U.S. Cyber Trust, also the common criteria, the FIPS, and other important regulations about cybersecurity. And about the other question, perhaps I could give an answer, but
this point of the cyber trust mark is a very important point because the US government and soon Europe is imposing that mark as a way to ensure that whatever you connect to the internet, could be a medical appliance, could be a connected car, it is secure. It means that you don't compromise the secure of the ecosystem because you are connecting something which is unsecure. So this is a very important step ahead. It's something like FIA is for medical products, but now for IoT. Somebody wants to react to that? Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, if I can just add briefly, all the solutions that we're discussing here involve the utilization of data. But that data needs to be relied upon, particularly in the case of vaccines. And this is something where distributed ledgers have value. It's not useful having data in an Excel spreadsheet if somebody can enter it and change that data. But you have knowledge if you're using a distributed ledger or blockchain that once the data is in, you're able to create, but you can't update or delete it, which gives a certain degree of confidence to the end users.
Yeah, I would like to add, to both your comments or questions. I think on the regulatory side, we need to kind of realize that space technology as such was just a few years back was entirely under the control of nations and military, right? It is in the last couple of decades that it's getting privatized, and more private companies are participating in this, and there is a need to kind of move towards more agreed kind of frameworks and regulations. And I think there is a movement, as Carlos just mentioned about that seal. So that is happening. It's kind of a little bit lagging behind, but then there is a move towards that. So we have to realize the kind of context that is originated from military and controlled national this thing. On the vaccine thing, as our friend here really brought out, blockchain is important because you need to rely on the data. And in my previous role with Casper, we had kind of done a pilot around UAE, around using data on blockchain to guarantee that the vaccines, when they are moving across the supply chain, that they maintain their temperature, pressure parameters, that the boxes in which the vaccines are, they are sealed and they're not tampered with. So all these things are important. And not only that, once you are giving the vaccines the last mile where it is kind of getting administered, you want to make sure that the number is available based on the incoming demand, and if not, then how can you redistribute at the end rather than taking it again to the centers and then kind of distributing it. So the outlets can they transfer between themselves and things like that, right? So yes, there is, I think, innovation happening in this area.
I will need to stop here because we have another very interesting panel coming, which is on something totally different, which is art tokenization. We have amazing artists. Then they're going to explain how they are using the internet and the blockchain and tokenization to sell their art. We're going to be deploying WISeArt as well. So stay with us because it's a very important panel. Before I leave, I would like again to give the floor to David as we're going to reward this amazing panel for their contribution to space technology, which is something very early. Space technology is like we were at the time of the World Wide Web in 1999, 25 years ago when I founded WISeKey. Very, very early, but huge potential. So I give the floor now to my friend David.
Thank you, Carlos. Well, gentlemen, I think it goes without saying that I'm looking forward to seeing some more women in this collective group next year. I know they're behind you, supporting and driving you. This award that's been developed in collaboration with WISeKey by the Global M&A and Foreign Investment Council, together with the China M&A Association, for whom we're looking for great opportunities in the future, represents our recognition of your innovation in space, the final frontier, not only for what you've done, but as with the group before you, who were recognized for their contributions to AI, but equally importantly, what you're going to do going forward. So, congratulations.
So you all will receive a medal like that? Yeah. And in the way out or before you leave, you also have a beautiful bottle of champagne and a hat in order to celebrate this beautiful medal. So congratulations for your presence, and thank you very much for an amazing panel. Thank you for the audience, and thank you for your effort to be quiet. We really appreciate that. So now I'm going to give the floor to 16, which is our art director and in charge of WISeArt. She has built a very powerful panel of artists and technologies that they are working to digitalize the art world. This is a very big endeavor, and we will just keep you guys. And after that, we're going to have a dinner together and continue celebrating. So please, 16, the floor is yours.